Hello and welcome to Bitch That's My Kind of Worship, a podcast by and for radical hotties the world over. My name is Lucy DK, and I'm an artist and writer obsessed with building the new world. This podcast is here to guide my fellow revolutionaries as we step into a collective healing journey that centers truth, justice, and returning to our limitless power. I will share practices, guidance, and conversations to keep your internal fires lit so you can let the old world crumble without fear and step into creating the future you were born for. It is our duty to fight for our freedom, and it is our duty to win. Hey hotties, this is the first guest episode of Bitch That's My Kind of Worship, and I'm going to be bringing you some incredible guest conversations with radical hotties from around the world who really activate and inspire me, whose wisdom I want to share with the collective. And a little bit of the law of Bitch That's My Kind of Worship is that even though this is the first time this podcast has ever been created, I actually did an Instagram live series back in 2020 during the pandemic when I was locked inside my London room. And I basically had different radical hotties, different friends come on that Instagram live, and we would just have conversations about whatever the theme of that month was, or like whatever their topic of interest was, and those conversations just were one of the most beautiful parts of that time for me. I remember so clearly how energizing they were. And at the time, Peter and I were friends because we had met in a performance art class at uni and got on some very crazy and radical creative journeys together. And so when we communed for that conversation, we spoke about our creative journeys, and Peter even came to the call as Muti, the artist. And that was like his creative alter ego, you could say. And so I felt when I was starting this podcast and I was starting to move into having some more conversations with hotties the world over, that I really wanted to return to Peter and see where he was at a few years on. And what was so beautiful was that that spark of intuition actually led to a conversation of healing and understanding the path of healing, the revolutionary path of healing that Peter had himself stepped into. This conversation is really candid, it's really real, and I'm really grateful to Peter for sharing his truth and his heart. And I know it's going to be super inspiring and activating. So I hope you enjoy, and I hope you can also look forward to the other conversations that we have coming soon. But until then, I'll leave you with the conversation. So the last time that you and I spoke, it was 2020, and we were mid-pandemic, and we were both in the midst of our artistry. And I feel like in that time, we've both been on some really interesting journeys that have essentially led us kind of all the way back to ourselves. And maybe we could just start off by you introducing yourself and telling the radical hotties listening a bit about how you've come to your own sense of spirituality or what that means to you.
Yeah, okay. Well, my name is, whenever I've been so used to AA meetings that when I'm asked to introduce myself, automatically I'm like, my name is Peter, I'm an alcoholic. So I feel like that is like one of the most important like facts of my life. Uh, I mean, I just go to AA meetings a lot, so I say alcoholic, but I'm mostly an addict. With spirituality, I didn't know that I needed to address my spiritual malady, my spiritual discomfort, my spiritual absence, until it was like so pressing and so unbearable, that I was forced to do it. For me, my journey to spirituality started with drugs and alcohol, because that's what I used as a placeholder for spirituality for so long, to deal with the discomfort with myself, the emptiness I felt inside, just to like numb or to feel different, to just like not feel like myself because I was so uncomfortable with myself. And I remember, when I took that first drink, it evolved from there. But when I took that first drink, I just remember like feeling alive for the first time and feeling connected and feeling confident in myself. And I was like, I want to feel this way all the time. Um, and that is like such a red flag, such a red flag. Um, and, it quickly turned into drinking alone, drinking in the shower, taking a little bit of liquor off of all of the bottles in the liquor cabinet. And I had to do it before every social event. It was really sad. But I thought it was great. I loved it. And I was an alcoholic in high school, and then I discovered weed, and then that did something more for me. It's like sedated me. And it allowed me to indulge in the isolation that was really comfortable for me. Um, so I would be smoking all the time, because only high was I okay with being alone with myself. I felt incredibly, incredibly lonely. And that was something that maybe not made me accept my loneliness, but almost endorsed it. Um, then that was in college. I don't know if because Lucy and I met. Was it in a performance art class?
Yes, it was in a
Was that the first
performance
time we
art
met?
class. Yes, sitting around that
Yes.
room.
Oh, that those are like some of my most favorite memories. Like of all time. Like definitely college, but like of all time.
Yeah, it was the most beautiful class. And I think what's so interesting when you speak about this and what that class even made me think of is the energy of aliveness and what that truly is, and the difference between like the energy of aliveness and the energy of addiction. And addiction can really masquerade as aliveness, right? And like there are so many things that do that, that like give you like that feeling of aliveness. And I was just wondering in your journey now, it's like, how do you separate those two things? And how do you also separate those two things from yourself? Because like you say, it's almost the addiction that makes you feel like you can feel alive all the time in that like high way, right? Versus I feel like actually true aliveness comes with the ascent, but like also the descent and the comfortability with reality not always being high, and like the comfortability with low, right? And the comfortability with all the
Right.
different shades of what it means to be alive. So I was wondering if you could speak to that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there's this like prayer passage in AA, and it's about acceptance. And it says, acceptance is the answer to all of my problems today. And then it goes on and on. It says nothing happens in God's world by mistake. And I think part of the reason why um, I was so deep in my addiction was because I couldn't accept reality. I couldn't accept the reality that I lived in. I couldn't accept the reality within myself. I couldn't face it. Um, and so, like, just like you said, I use these substances to feel alive, to feel something, to feel different, to just like not have to face reality. I couldn't accept it. Um, and like through my spiritual journey, through connecting to God, through prayer and just like faith. Faith is like the biggest thing in my life. Um, things might not turn out the way that I want them to or that I envisioned. But they'll turn out, and if I feel like there's loving energy or a God or just something that loves me unconditionally is protecting me, then that makes it okay. Like my spirituality has been the reason why I'm able to accept life now, accept my reality now, accept myself now. And that's still definitely a process. I'm not gonna lie. I'm still learning how to accept myself. Um, but like you talked about the ascent and the descent. And like for me, the ascent is like the spiritual ascent. Like realizing that you're part of something so much bigger than yourself. That there's so much like love around you and allowing that like to connect the love that resides inside you with the love that surrounds you. And the descent for me is like the descent of my ego. Like, just being like, you know what? I am special. I'm beautiful. I am loved, but I'm not that important, you know? Like my job in this world is to connect with people, to help people, to be of service, and to like be a participant in the stream of life, you know? my old therapist in treatment, who I'm still really close to, she says something along the lines of like, you know, you are like a speck of glitter in like the sea of glitter, and it's beautiful. But you're just a speck in it. But if you were gone, it would just be a little less shimmery, you know? You're important, but you're part of something so much bigger.
That's so true and so beautiful. And I think so much of our individual journeys of coming to know ourselves really return us to the collective, right? Or like, at least for me, that's definitely been the journey of, okay, and coming to know myself, I'm more powerful because I'm reconnected to our collective power. And it's also making me laugh hearing you speak because I think if you told us of not even 2020, but as of our uni years and that performance art class, that in a few years' time, we would be on a podcast together talking about how faith and God are like the center of our lives. The two of us would have screeched and screamed. And so I also wanted to go a little bit deeper into that concept of God. Like, who is she? Who are they to you? Like, what does that word mean? Like, how do you relate to what that force is that is bigger than us, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the beautiful thing about God, the concept of God, a higher power, is that you're always learning about who they, she, he, they, who they are. Uh, and, your conception of God changes and evolves with you. Uh, it is like the most beautiful, intimate relationship that somebody can have. I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about like who God is, what God is. I know that there's a higher power that wants the best for me, that wants the best for everybody, and that I can communicate with. Prayer has changed my life. And just like knowing that if I have faith in a relationship with a higher power, it'll be okay. It'll all be okay. The external circumstances become mostly irrelevant once I have that inner love and that inner light and that connection with a higher power. Um, and so like I know that my God is loving, is unconditionally loving. I know that my God uh is wise. Um, is lives in the connection that I feel with other people, the connections that I make with other people. Um, it's love, light, connection, joy, sunlight. That's how I imagine my God. And like I like now when I pray sometimes I get like goosebumps. It's insane to like feel like to like have a sensorial experience, I guess, and to feel that connection. Because a lot of times when you're praying to a God that you have no like physical evidence of, it can just feel silly. Like I felt really, really silly when I first started praying. I was like, oh gosh, what what am I doing? And now it's like something I look forward to. It's something I do all day, every day. And so to make a long story a little bit shorter or to sum it up, I don't really focus on who my God is, what they are. I focus on my relationship and my connection with that God.
And I think that makes complete sense, right? Because God is such an experience. And I think this is what is the hard thing for so many of us who were conditioned to be so rational and who were so severed from what it truly means to have a relationship like with the earth or our senses even, and like are so much in a kind of Western or capitalist way of like moving through the world, that to actually like envision something that is so experiential rather than logical is at first such a barrier. Because as you say, you're sitting there and you're like, why am I going to pray right now? Like, what, like what is going to come from this? Like, what's the point of this? And I think then like through the actual direct experience of these spiritual practices, you come to such a different sense of self, sense of knowing that you can't really articulate or explain. So I think that's why that is like super interesting. I'm wondering, because you spoke a bit about your journey and what it was that brought you to spirituality, but I'm wondering if there was like a catalyst moment in your life that you remember, a turning point, if you like, where you were suddenly like, okay, like something has to change, or you experienced God in some kind of direct way, or I don't know. Yeah, was there a catalyst for your spiritual awakening?
Yeah. So obviously it's drug related. So I got into meth, unfortunately. And I'll just speak really briefly. The first time that I used meth, um, it like the feeling that I felt, I took one hit, and the way I felt, it wasn't joy, it wasn't bliss, it wasn't ecstasy. I remember it so clearly, and it was love. It was the feeling of love, like pure. It felt innocent. It was beautiful, and it was like wow. Like I have never felt love like that in my life. Um, so I was like, wow, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think like that goes to show the insidious evil nature of drugs. The first time you use it, it's love, and then it devolves into horror and evil. Um, and so, I had I had a little bit of a rough go with with my use. It got bad, I went to treatment 8 times. Psychosis, you know, the degradation of my body, the degradation of my mind, certainly the degradation of my morals, homelessness, sex work, which isn't inherently bad by any means. But now that I look back on it, I think it was honestly pretty traumatizing. Um, but like, you know, and no matter what the external circumstances were, um, I kept using, I kept relapsing because that was the love and the feeling and the whatever that I knew would always be there. That would always be there to help me take myself outside of myself. Um, and so like honestly, they talk about bottoms in AA, like your rock bottom. And my rock bottom this past time wasn't necessarily different from a lot of my bottoms in the past. I mean, look at it. I was homeless. I was staying in an Airbnb, so like it wasn't like that bad. But I did not have permanent residence. I was escorting again. I was using IV drugs. Um, I tried to kill myself again a couple of times. Um, and then I had the experience with psychosis. And for me, that was a really, really painful, um, difficult, horrifying experience to hear voices in your head. Um, but those voices were the catalyst for me to change, um, or to at least like make the attempt to change. Um, it was so bad and so horrible. And it was also making me realize how bad and horrible I was. And so I was confronted with that. And that wasn't the first time by any means I was confronted with that, but it got really, really serious. And so I went into treatment again, but this treatment was a little bit different. It was like very AA focused. And AA is what I consider my religion. It like helped me connect with God. And so like it's just a point of desperation. I was given the gift of desperation. Um, and this desperation this time was enough to give me honestly the fear necessary to catapult me into faith. Yeah.
Firstly, yeah, thank you for sharing so much. It's really interesting with sharing the feeling of what should we share, like what's useful to share, da da da. But something I actually remember, and I don't know even know if you remember this, there was a moment when you were going through your journey of addiction when you'd like posted on Facebook or somewhere, I'm not sure, and you'd like shared like where you were at and like what was happening. I think you were in recovery like at the time. And you had actually mentioned like a gateway drug that you had like used during this time or something like this. I'm not sure if you're remembering this. And at the
Yeah.
time, it was something that I was using. which I didn't even expect to
Really?
share on this podcast, actually.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I remember reading that post and being like, whoa, like, I need to turn this all the way around. Um, so firstly, I just wanted to thank you for that share, like all the way back then in the Facebook time, because I think it goes to show, like even when you're just making a post, right, and you don't really know who's reading it, like who it's going to reach, like there's so much vulnerability and being visible, especially when talking to these things that so many people experience. But it's so powerful, and like the faith and technology of sharing is just so powerful.
Mhm.
And I think in what you just said right now as well, like it's so interesting that you speak about being confronted with that sense of morality and the fear and the shadow. And it's hard, right? Because so often in life, again, it's like we want the light, like we want all the ways that you describe God, like the sunlight, the high, like the feeling of like unconditional love. Like these are the things that we seek and that we're just aching for, and that like the children within us just like want so badly. And yet, so often in life, there are just these deep moments where actually what we're experiencing is the complete antithesis, like the complete opposite to love, right? Like it feels like, wow, I'm confronted with like the depths of evil. Like, and I think it's so easy to often like see that as a failure and to like climb even deeper into the shadow, because it's kind of a feeling of like, what if I'm here? Like, what hope is
Mhm.
there for me? Right. Or like, if I'm here, like, how am I ever gonna get there? Like, how am I ever gonna reach back to that unconditional love? I think it's very, very powerful to know that when we're in those like deepest moments of descent, we're actually like more powerful than ever. And I think something that like faith has taught me is that those things are so interconnected, right? It's like you have the light and you have the dark. Like you have like the fire and the rain. Like you have that is life. Like that's the human experience. And it's actually so easy to see divinity as only one side of that. Whereas actually, I feel like in a way that's kind of an immature spirituality. And the more that we mature in our spirituality, the more that we see that like all of those parts are part of us. And as you so rightly say, it's like only through confronting the very like depths of ourselves that we actually are able to move into the light and to share more of that light and like to come into connection with the fact that like we can experience life in a different way, and like we do have the power to seek out the love that we felt we were missing, and like we do have the power to live in a way that is filled with that light, right? And so something that I'm really interested to hear from you now is like, what light do you feel like is within you that you're wanting to bring more into the world? Like, is there anything that's like lighting you up at the moment, or that's making you see like there is the light, there's light after all?
Good question. Also, that was beautifully worded. And thank you for sharing that experience. That makes me so happy. I forgot about that post, to be quite honest. But that makes me so happy that, it was impactful in some fashion. Um, so the light I'm experiencing right now, it's just like love. Like, well, okay, well, first I want to circle back to like, because that was like really profound what you said about the light and the darkness, and having a more nuanced, complicated view of spirituality and all of that. Uh, like that's something that like I'm really reckoning with right now, because I know in the depths of my addiction, I was evil. I was evil, and I did bad, horrible things. And it's like in some ways I'm grateful for those experiences, for making me confront those parts of myself. Um, because it's like it's so easy. to just try to forget about it. Like, oh, that never happened. I didn't experience that despair. I didn't do those things. I'm not that person anymore. Um, but like in order to like be a full human, and to make sure that you are never that way again, you have to accept that you did those things, that you felt that way, that you caused harm and all of that. Um, and so that's something that I'm really reckoning with right now because I never want to go back to those depths of despair and just horror. And so like I'm grateful for those experiences. Um, and I'm still contending with them. How do I not make it right, but like how from now, how do I acknowledge the past? Um, how do I take accountability for the past? How do I make amends for the past in whatever way that I can? And how do I ensure that I am never that way and never reach those depths ever again? And I think that's through acceptance and confrontation of the shadow. Um, and right now, I'm like, I am filled with so much light and so much love and so much connection. Um, it's like I'm experiencing the world for the first time in my life. And it's the most beautiful experience I've ever had. And honestly, I feel like I had my like true spiritual awakening like a week ago. So it's like definitely pretty freaking recent. I mean, I've been feeling good. Okay, this is gonna be so TMI and this is so unrelated. I mean, you can cut this if you want, but like I knew because it's like um in the promises or whatever, it's like God is doing for me what I could not do for myself. And when I was in my youth and all that, and even before that, like I had like the worst masturbation addiction ever. I was like cranking it out all the time, and like I could not stop. Like especially with meth and all of that, like I was like the gooner of all gooners. And like I was like, I just can't stop. What is wrong with me? Like porn and all that, whatever. And when I was in treatment, like, and it was so hard. Like I literally could not stop, sober or unsober. And then one day, it was literally like I think it's almost exactly when I started praying on my knees. I didn't masturbate for like 3.5 weeks. The most insane thing. And that's when I
Actually,
realized that, oh my gosh, God is doing for me what I cannot do for myself. All I have to do is reach out. And I didn't even ask for help with that. I just had to reach out and like start making that connection, that relationship. And like, you know, so sorry. So sorry,
I
that's definitely too
I'm
much.
obsessed with that story. I'm like, God really got you.
God got me together. God got me together. Because it like ultimately like that blocked me off from especially my relationship with other people and from experiencing true intimacy. Um, and is it the most harmful thing in the world? Probably not. Is it a problem for everybody? No, but it was a problem for me. And God helped me do what I could not do for myself. And, right now, for me, it is all about connection. It's all about like love, of showing up fully. Um, it is the greatest gift in my life when like I can make somebody feel the love that I feel now on the inside and to feel accepted and to feel safe and to just feel like they belong. Like feeling like you belong is so important. Um, and so that's really my light right now. Yeah.
It's beautiful, and it is so so important. And I love what you were talking about in terms of engaging with the shadow. And firstly, I think it's always interesting when there are communities that learn something really, really well, right? Because I don't think that like interrogating shame and like the bad things we do is something that is actually only related to addiction. Like, I think it's something that when you're in recovery from addiction, clearly like you go through steps where you really have to learn this and like, do this really well. And so maybe you've become the expert, but I think it's something that is so relevant and that our society as a whole, we're so bad at facing the shadow. And I definitely have had to contend with how much I really saw anything that could be seen as bad or shameful as something I really needed to, avoid and hide and like pretend, okay, this is not attached to me. Like there needs to be some kind of like evasive thing, right? Rather than truly sitting in like, like these are the things that I do. Like these are the ways that I cause harm. Like, and actually being able to come to not only like forgiveness for the other, but forgiveness for the self, and like being able to sit with like the feeling of being really sorry. And like, and then I think in addition to that, being able to also let it go completely and also accept completely. And again, this is like always the flip part of spirituality, right? It's like go in deep, but also completely let it go, completely accept, completely surrender. Like don't like feel the shame to like the deepest degree, but don't sit in it. Like, and it's like having to
Yes.
master how to actually do that is so hard. So I'm wondering, like, with your newfound expertise, like if you could maybe share like what those steps were for you, or like what that experience is like, of like how you would almost frame it for somebody also going through that, of how to move through shame, like how to find self-forgiveness.
Yeah. Um, you know, I guess maybe it's just this thing in AA, but they say to wear the world like a loose garment, like feel it, but like let it flow, baby, let it flow. Um, Shame is like, oh man, that is such like a big topic. Because sometimes like I oscillate all the time between feeling like I feel no shame at all. I'm a psychopath, like all that, and then feeling so engulfed in shame. Um, and so it's a really interesting experience. Um, you know, like it's a really difficult line to toe between taking accountability for what you've done, for who you were, um, and recognizing in like clearly declaring, I did that. I caused that harm. I did that thing. I hurt that person. Um, and not letting that morph into shame that you carry, of thinking I'm a bad person. In my heart, I'm evil, I am bad, I hurt people. That's who I am, that's what I do. Because ultimately, if that's what you believe about yourself, you're going to continue repeating those actions and causing more harm. Um, and it feels like in the moment, like I deserve to feel this way. I should feel this way. I should hate myself. I should like it carry the constant baggage of knowing that I am a terrible person. Um, but that's ultimately kind of a selfish act, um, because it's not productive for anybody else. It's not productive for you. It's not going to change anything. Um, and so sitting in it, internalizing it isn't helpful. It's just not, but it's so hard not to. Um, and I literally had to Google like how do I make an apology? How do I take accountability? How do like I had to Google it because I'm like I'm kind of, you know what? I don't really know. And like I want to do this right and I want it to be meaningful and I want it to be permanent. And so I had to Google. That's Google's great. There's a lot of answers. And so like it's important to acknowledge your shadow, um, the parts of you that came out at a certain time and did certain things, and to recognize the harm that was caused, um, and to do whatever you can. Uh, and if it's done directly to a person, you go to that person and you speak to them, you acknowledge what you did, you apologize for what you did, you ask them, did I leave anything out? Which gives them the opportunity um, to speak and to like because I forget a lot of things. I'm doing a lot of bad things, and I probably forget a lot of them. So it gives them the opportunity um to let you know, like, hey, yeah, you forgot about this, and then you say, how can I make it right? And you do whatever they say within reason. If they're like, give me like $50,000, yeah, within reason, then it makes sense. But you do whatever they say because it's not up to you to decide. Um, how to make things right, how to make that amends. And then, just like you said, you say, okay, I did my best to make things right, to acknowledge the harm I caused, to apologize. And to make a commitment to never do it again. And then you let it go, you know? I don't think you necessarily forget it, but you detach it from yourself. Um, and I think that's the only way to try to live with, because I don't think anybody ever lives without shame. Well, probably most people, I don't know. But to try to like chisel away at it, so then you can be a full person, that you can like be a changed person and not do those same things. That's ultimately the goal, and that's ultimately what helps other people. And it may feel um like you're being too easy on yourself, or you're being indulgent, self-indulgent, or something like that. Um, but like that's the least selfish thing you can do, is to be better.
That's beautiful. And I love the going to the other person as well. Like I experienced that where someone really came to me. And I feel like the experience of like having that exchange is something I'd never really comprehended before, like the power of that for both people. And I think in doing that as well, you always realize that both people are in some way part of that interaction. And that there's like been learning and often pain on both sides. And like, I think we get to see that we're all part of creating community together. And like, so much of creating community is about repair, right? And like actually dealing with the difficult things and making a way when it seems like there's no way and this is too bad and da da. And then actually you're like, oh, like when we meet like from the heart, or like when we come to each other and like from a place of love, like there are genuine pathways to healing, like interrelationally, which I think is really beautiful.
Yeah, seriously. Like, I saw my mom for the first time in like almost a year. And the last time I saw her, it was horrible. I was like out of my mind. I was like roaming my whole family is patrolling the streets of Chicago for hours trying to find me. Because I was crazy and on drugs and all of that. And before that, I don't even remember the last time I saw my mom with a clear mind, sober and normal, and the person that she remembers and knows me to be. And she visited me like 2 weeks ago. Um, and I got to spend time with her, and I got to connect with her and have this really beautiful experience. And I got to make my amends. Um, and we did it on the beach. I like made like a picnic. It was at sunset. Um, and I didn't go into it right away. Like I let there be like a little bit of time, and then like between like the dinner and then the dessert, I was like, this is the time. And as soon as I looked at her and started speaking, I just like burst into tears. And I was like, I could not speak for like I this might be hyperbolic, it might not be, like 5 minutes. I was just like sobbing for 5 minutes. And I think with an amends, maybe that's not the best thing to do, because it's not about you, it's not about your feelings, it's not about like your pain necessarily. It's about making amends for the pain that you caused this other person. But I could not help it. It's like there's just so much pain that I caused in that relationship, so much pain that I caused her, and it was really overwhelming. Um, and so there's pain on both sides. Even if, like, when you cause somebody else harm, it is an injury to yourself, especially somebody that you love and care for deeply. It is an injury to yourself. And through the healing process of taking accountability, making amends. And honestly, I don't think that I did that good of a job at like verbalizing and articulating myself to my mom. Like I left a lot of stuff out. So I was like, God's gonna speak through me. It's gonna be great. I don't have to prepare, whatever. So that part was a little lacking, but she loves me. She's my mom. She was just, we were both so grateful for the experience. But like, it is so healing for both people and with that relationship. It is just the most incredible thing in the world, to acknowledge all the pain that's there, all the harm, all of that, and to share that moment and to grow. It's incredible.
It sounds so beautiful. I can picture you both sitting there on the beach. And I think even just
Yeah.
being in the natural world often, and like even that feeling of, yeah, like God's going to speak through, like it does give you that sense of like, okay, it's going to happen in the right way. Like this is what's needed, and like a beautiful thing will come of this. And I'm so happy to hear that you got to have that beautiful experience. I'm wondering as well, like, I feel like the way I know you first and foremost, like you, even when you're introducing yourself and you're like, you're so used to the AA meetings that now you're like, hi, I'm Peter, like I'm an alcoholic. But really, I'm like, to me, you're Muti the artist. So I wanted to just like hear more about your artistic practice and maybe also how that's shifted or transformed, and like how you relate to art now, because I think, and this is something in my journey that I've very much felt, is like there are these light and shadow, speaking of the light and shadow sides to artistry as well, right? And the ego that can be so attached to the art and all these things. So I'm wondering just what that journey has been like for you, and how you connect to your creativity now.
Yeah. I look back on our time that we spent together, especially in that performance art class. And what an amazing experience that was. And at least I didn't realize like how special it was until I was in the real world and I realized that people like really don't care about that stuff. We could just like be freaks together and like be experimental and explore my part. Like it was just so amazing. And I felt like, with that and my own art practice at the time, like that was like my life force. Um, it was like really amazing. And just like it connected me with other people. Connected me with you, connected me with everyone else. Um, and so like it was really beautiful. And like then I did math and like that was like literally I think the last time, like right before I did this like big project or whatever, right before I started using. And that's when my art practice died. Um because to me art is life, art is beauty. Um and that made me dead inside. It completely deadens my soul. It like sucked the soul right out of me. And so for like years afterwards, I never even thought about it. It felt like it was a past life, like it was a past version of myself, and I lost all ability to connect with art as a whole, and the artist that I was at one point in my life. Um, and so like it just died. Like it literally just died. Muti died.
She
Um,
died. R.I.P.
he
Moody.
died. R.I.P. And I'm at a point now where, I don't know what my art practice is gonna be or if it's ever gonna come back or any of that. I don't know if Muti is gonna rise from the grave or anything. But like now, with the new way that I'm experiencing life, with my new eyes and my new heart and my new soul, I'm just like looking around, like my camera roll is like all like flowers and trees and bugs and small animals and just like I'm captivated by the beauty that surrounds me. And I live like in like essentially a suburb. Like it's like not the most magnificent place in the world. But there's just so much beauty around me and I'm seeing it again and I'm appreciating it again. And like it takes my breath away. And I think that's maybe the first step in reconnecting with the artist inside of me and with art as a just entity.
Beautiful response, because I think death is so important. And we don't allow things to die. Like we hang on to them, like we cling on to these old identities. And it really stops us from truly becoming who we are and truly connecting to like the truth of our creativity, right? Which I feel like the creative life force, which truly is the life force, like it's like creativity in its essence is birthing, right? It's like truly like giving life to something. And I think that we are able to use that energy for so many of the things around us. And so I love the way that you speak about the world around you and like seeing things through new eyes and like the connection that you're creating within your community as well, and like what it feels like to love others and like be of service. Because I actually think to come to maturity as an artist as well, like we talked about maturing spirituality, but like maturing creativity is realizing again that like you are not the center of the universe and like you are a speck of the glitter. And I think to create something that's like truly glittery and like truly amazing, you actually have to go through that whole process of like believing you're everything, crumbling down. And then I believe you will come back to your art practice. And I think it will be probably in a completely different way to how you expect. And I don't know if Mooty's going to rise again, but that will be art that is born from you because you have a gift. But it's like the beauty of letting it die and being exactly where you are, and again trusting that like everything happens at the perfect time and in the perfect way, right?
Mhm. Yeah, like there are so many experiences I look back on and I'm like at the time and like for a while after I was like, oh my God, like worst experience of my life. I can't believe I went through that. Like, just like the whole pour me thing. Um, and now, and maybe it's just a gratitude for the way I'm feeling now, for who I am now. I can look back on those experiences with such gratitude because I think sometimes the only way to change is through pain, um, is through reaching those depths, um, confronting the shadow, all of that. And that is the only way you can truly change. And so, like those painful experiences I went through, um, like I have so much gratitude for them now. It's like everything happens for a reason. Like I can't, I'm not gonna like claim that for everybody's life, because I know that there's like horror and tragedy and like things that happen without reason or injustice and all of that. Like I'm not gonna make a broad sweeping statement that everybody, everything happens in everybody's life for a reason. But now in my life, I can say that, and I can really truly feel gratitude for everything.
I feel the gratitude. I feel the gratitude radiating. Oh, I think my final question for you, because this is a podcast about worship of the alternative kind, is how do you pray? Like you spoke about how it felt when you were first praying and you were like, oh, this feels so stupid and da da da. How do you
Yeah.
pray now?
Now, okay, so what I do is I have like two staple like standard times to pray. I pray in the morning and I say the third step prayer, um, which is God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and to do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those that help with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. And then I added, God, please keep me sober today, both emotionally and physically. And that is my morning prayer. And then I pray throughout the day. I try to pray for other people. And if I'm praying for myself, I try to pray for courage, strength, clarity, um, and all of that. And then uh, just like if I see somebody that looks like they're in need or just something, like just pray for them. Like that's the least you can do. That is the least I can do. And at night, that is the time for me to speak to God and to share my gratitude for everything that happened today, all the blessings, just everything. And just like that's a little bit more free form. I just kind of go off the dome with that one. Yeah, and like, just like really feeling and like giving that space and time to show my appreciation. Um, yeah, because gratitude, like that, feeling gratitude is like speaking to God in and of itself, you know. And then also at AA meetings, we pray together. And at most meetings, you like stand in a circle and you hold hands or whatever, and you pray together. And that is an incredibly magical experience. Praying on your by yourself is beautiful and intimate and amazing. And then praying with other people is also amazing. Um, and to have the communal experience. There's no wrong way to pray. Generally, it's a better idea to pray for other people, pray for how you can be of help to the world, and to do God's will over your own. But there is no wrong way to pray. And it is a process. It is a journey of how to pray and how to connect and all of that. But you should never feel stupid and never feel dumb or anything for the way that you pray, because the act is powerful regardless of the contents.
The act is so powerful, and I feel like it engages you on such a body level, like such an experiential level, that yeah, even just like making the sound of prayer or like just putting yourself in that space is what creates the alchemy almost. Like to me it is magic. Like it's just a magic that just exists somehow. I would love to pray together to close the podcast. I think that would be such a beautiful way to close the conversation. um
Yes,
Okay, amazing. I know we can't hold hands like virtually,
I
but
know.
I'm but I'm definitely holding you in spirit. And yeah, I just want to firstly thank God for bringing us together all those years ago and also today, to share in our realness and our authenticity and the highs and lows and the beauty and the pain and all of it. Um, I want to also just share my true expansion on hearing everything that Peter has shared today, and just how much I know that these words and this conversation will expand those who hear it, and will allow just the wisdom of our shared experience and all the things that we go through in life, to be something that becomes so useful and so beautiful, and so powerful as well. Um, I would love to just speak a lot of light and energy and freedom into Peter as well as he continues on his journey. I think this journey is just such a beautifully exciting and bright one, and one of so much conviction, but also so much dancing and so much community, and so much faith. And I just ask for, yeah, continued blessings and also self trust. Um, I would also love to pray for anyone listening to this podcast who is also really moving through the energy of addiction and all the things that that energy can create within life. And anyone experiencing just those energies of loneliness or lovelessness, or how it feels to not feel alive. I think we've all been there in the feeling of not feeling alive. And so to just speak that potential and that opportunity for transformation and that alchemy and that magic that really is possible, when you're prepared to step into pain, knowing that there's so much beauty on the other side. And Peter, I don't know if there's any words that you also want to share, anything that you want to pray as we close the episode.
I mean, you covered a lot of it. That was really, really beautiful. I'll just say that I pray for you, Lucy. It is incredible to see um, the way you've grown, and like all the gifts that we bring to the world. And I pray that you continue to discover yourself, to help other people discover themselves, to discover um, a relationship with higher power, with something, it's something to help heal. I pray for your healing to continue healing, for the healing of everyone who's listening to this. You know, just healing and love and light and safety and everything that God is to me. I hope and I pray that everyone will have an experience with something that gives that to them. So yeah.
Yeah, bitch.
Amen.
That's
Yeah,
my kind of worship. Hey, fucking man. Wow.
bitch.
Love you.
Amen. I love you so much, Lucy. Seriously.
You've been listening to Bitch, That's My Kind of Worship, and you can follow Radical Hotties on Substack for more where that came from. See you next time.